CM Punk was once a hero in the eyes of many. He was instigating change and revolutionizing the landscape of professional wrestling in a time where Vince did not want change. If it wasn't for Punk, we may have never seen the meteoric rise of Daniel Bryan. Some may still see him as a hero, but this perception of Punk has been tainted with his apparent ego problems and his destructive nature. As of right now, Punk is currently gone from professional wrestling, with no word on any return in any capacity. But should he actually return? Well, today we'll weigh up the pros and cons of a CM Punk return to professional wrestling. The first pro of CM Punk returning: star power. Whether you like to admit it or not, CM Punk is a star. He might not be as big as Hogan or Rock or Austin, but he doesn't have to be. He draws in viewers to watch weekly television and buy pay-per-views, and that is a valuable asset within itself. His impact on AEW numbers alone says enough. AEW's top 5 best pay-per-view buy rates all feature a CM Punk match on it. He main evented 2 of AEW's $1 million gates, and out of the top 10 best sellers on Pro Wrestling Tees/Shop AEW, 4 of the items are his. Tony Khan even went on to exclaim that it was one of the best deals of his life when talking about bringing Punk in. Now, while Khan may think that, there are some that oppose that idea. And now the first con of CM Punk returning: backstage issues. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, you'll be aware of CM Punk's and the Elite's backstage debacle. But some of the backstage issues actually stem from CM Punk's star power itself. While Tony Khan was reportedly very happy with the signing of CM Punk, many staff and wrestlers backstage reported that they didn't feel Punk was popular enough. This sort of alienated him from the rest of the locker room, with many expecting game-changing viewership. But weeks went by, then months, and then eventually a year, and nothing had really changed. This first initial letdown of expectations definitely created a sense of separation between Punk and the locker room, and things would eventually boil up until we got the great backstage fight of 2022. However, this theme of burning bridges has followed Punk throughout his whole career. It was notable in WWE, where he berated them on Colt Cabana's podcast after his release, and he was reportedly very unapproachable there. I think Triple H sums up Punk perfectly in this promo here.
But when you talk about being the catalyst for change, really what you mean is you will only accept change if it means CM Punk is on top. Because unless CM Punk is the guy, the man, that's not enough change for you. That's not really what you want.
The fact of the matter is this, and it has proven to be true time and time again: if Punk isn't getting what he wants, then the chances are the backstage morale is going to take a hit. The second pro: dream feuds and matches. CM Punk vs MJF was potentially one of the greatest feuds in the last decade, and there is still a lot to unpack there if CM Punk ever comes back. CM Punk vs Eddie Kingston was a great story with some exceptional microphone work, and Punk vs Hangman was a fiery feud that really blurred the lines between fiction and reality. Punk has still got a lot to offer on a television product, despite his flawed personality. With a lot of dream matches and feuds in both companies that would sell out arenas. Let me just list off a few. Kevin Owens vs Punk, Omega vs Punk, Malachi Black vs Punk, AJ Styles vs Punk, Bella vs Punk, Edge vs Punk, the list goes on and on. To never have any of these feuds or matches seems like a real misstep, and it's just money on the table. If any company could put the cons of Punk away, they could have a serious amount of money on their hands. But is it worth all the cons that Punk brings? And now the second con: in-ring work. Hot take: CM Punk was an overrated in-ring worker, and his matches with Samoa Joe, Chris Hero, Austin Aries, and Ring of Honor were all amazing. But it has definitely been a downward spiral after joining WWE, and I don't think that's a ridiculous claim to make. If you even go back to his 5-star rated match at Money in the Bank 2011 with John Cena, there's a lot of sloppiness and botches on Punk's behalf. The crowd do half the work in this match. Now, since coming back, his in-ring work has deteriorated even more. Botches after botches after botches. Now, this was inevitable. He was never an athlete. In fact, his wrestling coach said Colt Cabana was a far superior athlete, and Joe Rogan has even described Punk as having no athletic talent. The role aging wrestlers take on in the latter stages of the career is one of a ring general, giving younger guys great matches and giving them the rub. But Punk isn't capable of this. In fact, he almost has been relying on the younger guys to give him good matches since joining AEW. I'm not saying that Punk can't change his current level of in-ring prowess, but he needs to put in the work. But can companies trust him to? Third pro, experience. Now what Punk lacks in athletic prowess, he does make up for it in his psychology and his ability to lay out a coherent and engaging match, and this is what AEW so desperately needs. AEW's youngsters in particular frighten me with their constant flips and high spots, because yes, there may be a way to pop the crowd in the moment, it really puts a ceiling on your career. All the best to ever do it, Hogan, Flair, Michaels, Angle, Benoit, Danielson, Okada, all these wrestlers told stories in the ring, not performed gymnastics, and the stories is what made them top guys. Punk, with all his in-ring flaws, can sure as hell tell a story, in the ring and on the microphone, and if he really focuses on passing his wisdom and tips to the next generation, he could help produce the next top generation of wrestlers. And we know he is passionate about this as well. Just listen to him talk about Hangman not accepting advice from older wrestlers.
Our locker room, for all the wisdom and brilliance it has, isn't worth shit when you have an empty-headed idiot who's never done anything in the business do public interviews and say, I don't really take advice. Who the fuck do you think you are? You know? That's stupid. I'm on a team with Barry Bonds, Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa, and I don't need to work on my swing. I'm not gonna listen to these guys. They're gonna tell me how to swing a baseball. Fucking go fuck yourself. That's how I feel about it. I dare you to fucking say that to Terry Funk's face. I don't need to listen to you, Mr. Funk. I know what I'm doing. Fucking grow up.
If somebody could find a way to channel all this negative energy that Punk possesses and change it into positive, helpful energy, then Punk could be a great signing for WWE or AEW or any other company, and actually he could be a locker room leader. But before we get into the last con, could you please head down to the subscribe button and click it? It would mean a lot for a small wrestling YouTuber such as myself. The third and final con, ego. The biggest factor in the downfall of Punk has always been his ego. Time after time after time, CM Punk has gotten a little too comfortable and a little too big for his boots. It is the groundwork of the backstage issues, and unless Punk faces this, he is always going to be a cancer to any locker room area he is involved in. The problem is Punk thinks he is bigger than the companies he works for, and I understand that every wrestler should think they're the best in the world, and they should own their craft and train to be the best, but let me just say this. No single individual wrestler has ever been bigger than the wrestling company they work for. Everybody is replaceable, and Tony Khan has shown Punk this since his suspension. The ratings have even improved since his absence. But Punk has a hard time accepting this. He wants to be the man, but I think deep down he knows he'll never be as great as he wants to be. And maybe when Phil Brooks accepts this certain fact that he'll never be that Stone Cold Steve Austin guy, then maybe he will come back down to earth. And now the conclusion. Should CM Punk return? Well, that's a lot of what ifs. What if Punk can improve in the ring? What if he lets go of his ego? What if? Well, my verdict, Punk should return to professional wrestling, whether that be AEW or WWE. And that is because I'm putting my faith in a 44-year-old man to act mature and reconcile, but maybe my faith is naive. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments, and since you stayed around to the end, check out this video on two wrestlers who do not have ego problems, but more specifically, why Sami Zayn should beat Roman Reigns.